Morning dear students. Today we are going to start the new chapter that name tissue, and I know you are very well aware of the term cell. What is cell? Cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. And why we call it as a basic structural and functional unit of life? Because cell in any organism is the smallest unit. It is the smallest unit of any living organism, and it is capable of performing all the functions. Now when we see or move forward in the level of organization, we will see that cell, they combine together, they aggregate, they form groups to form tissue. Cell is the basic unit, and when the cell they combine together, they form the second level of organization, that is tissue. So simply how to define tissue? We will say that tissue is a group of cells. Now when this second level of organization is approached, that is tissue, we will categorize tissue into two types, that is plant tissue and animal tissue. Today we will start with the topic plant tissue. Now plant tissue is basically, we can categorize plant tissue into two main categories. One is the meristematic tissue and other is the permanent tissue. Meristematic tissue is the tissue, they are made up of very actively dividing cell. They are a combination of very actively dividing cell. They are a group of very actively dividing cell. Actively dividing cell. Now meristematic tissue, since they are actively dividing, therefore they are capable or they help the plant to grow. So we can say that growth of plant is due to meristematic tissue. This is why, because these tissue have the ability to divide. Permanent tissue is the other category of plant tissue. When meristematic tissue, they grow and they divide, they undergo differentiation. Now what is differentiation? The term differentiation means it is the process of taking a permanent size, a permanent shape and a permanent function. Means when meristematic tissue undergo differentiation, they convert or they take a particular type of size. When the cell which are forming a meristematic tissue, they undergo differentiation, they will take up a particular size, a particular shape and a particular function, a permanent function, a permanent size, a permanent shape, and get converted into a permanent tissue. So in simple words we can say that meristematic tissue are the one which when grow and divide, they differentiate into permanent tissue. But you have to well aware of this term, what is differentiation. Again I am repeating, it is the process of taking a permanent size, a permanent shape and a permanent function. So when meristematic tissue, they divide, they grow and they take a permanent function, they are called permanent tissues. Now permanent tissue loses their ability to divide. They cannot divide like the meristematic tissue do. So this is one of the basic difference between the meristematic tissue and the permanent tissue. Permanent tissue is further classified into two major categories. One is simple permanent tissue and other is the complex permanent tissue. Now simple permanent tissue, as the name suggests, are the simple tissues. Simple tissues means they are made up of only one type of cells. Simple permanent tissues are the tissues which are made up of only one type of cells, means same type of cells. On the other hand, when we talk about complex permanent tissues, these are the tissues which are made up of more than one type of, one or two cells you can say, more than different type of cells. They are made up of different type of cells. Here they are made up of same type of cells, but complex permanent tissue, they are made up of different type of cells. Simple permanent tissue is further divided into parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, and fourth category is epidermis that you will study in this class. When we talk about complex permanent tissue, which is made up of more than one type of cells or different type of cells, they are further categorized into xylem and phloem, and they together is called vascular bundle. They together form vascular bundle. So what is vascular bundle? It is xylem plus phloem. Today we will learn about the first simple permanent tissue, that is the parenchyma. The first category of permanent tissue, that is simple permanent tissue, under which we will learn the first simple permanent tissue, that is parenchyma. As we already know that permanent tissue is categorized into simple permanent and complex permanent. Simple permanent tissue are the tissues which are basically made up of same kind of cell or similar cells. Under this category, the first tissue is parenchyma. So today we will discuss this parenchyma tissue. Now parenchyma tissues are the most general tissues of the plants. They are most general tissues of plants. General tissues means they are the packing tissues of the plant. They are unspecialized tissue. See, when you are talking about parenchyma tissue, we have to be very well aware of the characteristics of these tissues. So, the first characteristic is they are unspecialized tissue. Unspecialized means they are not destined for a particular type of work. They are not specialized for a particular type of work. That is why we use the term unspecialized tissue. So, parenchyma tissue are the most simplest tissue of simplest permanent tissue. They are unspecialized in the manner that they are not specialized for any kind of work. They are living cells. Second, third, they have thin cell walls. Their cell walls is very thin. They are loosely packed. Loosely packed means the cell, they are not tight with each other. They are loose in arrangement. That means they have intercellular spaces between them. That is very important point. They are loosely packed means they are having intercellular spaces among them. That the cells, they are not compactly arranged. And types of parenchyma tissue. Parenchyma tissue is basically, we divide parenchyma tissue into two types. The first type is chlorenchyma. Now what is chlorine? Chlorine means, chloro means chloroplast. Chlorenchyma means the tissue, the parenchyma tissue, they are the tissues which are having chloroplast in them. The parenchyma tissue in which the cells of parenchyma tissue in which there is presence of chloroplast, they are called chlorenchyma. Okay, the cells of parenchyma tissue which is having chloroplast, they are called chlorenchyma. And since you know that chloroplast is helpful or they do the function of photosynthesis, therefore these chlorenchyma cells, they are capable of doing photosynthesis. Okay. Then comes the second types of parenchyma tissue, that is arenchyma. Arenchyma is a kind of tissue which is mostly present in case of aquatic plants. Due to these tissues, they are able to float on water. These tissues, the cells of these tissues, parenchyma tissues, some parenchyma tissues which are having air cavities inside. Air cavities means hollow space inside the cell. And these air cavities, due to presence of these air cavities in those parenchyma cells, they are called arenchyma. Arenchyma means air cavity. It doesn't mean that plant, they float in air. No, it means these air cavity, they provide buoyancy to the plants when they are aquatic plants, Actually they are the characteristic of aquatic plants. So it provides buoyancy to the plants and it helps the plants to float. So these were some of the characteristics of parenchyma cell that you have to keep in your mind. And the third thing, and this point also you have to keep in your mind, that parenchyma, when you talk about the basic functions, you can say that storage of food, they store food. Since when you will see the structure of parenchyma cell, you will see that there is a large vacuole inside the parenchyma cells. These vacuoles, they are basically related with the storage function. Okay, so let's see the structure of parenchyma cell. Okay, now this is the, let me adjust it, this is the structure of parenchyma cell. I hope you can see this. Now see, whenever you will see parenchyma cells under microscope, you will see that they are mostly circular or oval in shape. Okay, they are having cytoplasm and a large center vacuole. These are large center vacuole, you can clearly see these are large center vacuoles. Okay, these white color, I have colored it white to make you see that these are the intercellular spaces. They are not compactly arranged, they are having intercellular spaces between two cells. And the vacuoles, they which sometimes store food, here you can see, and the food mostly stored is starch. The food stored in case of plant is starch. For example, parenchyma tissue, they are present in stems also, in leaves also, in roots also. But for instance, potato that you eat is a storage of food, that is starch is stored, that are parenchymal cells actually. Okay, now you can see these red colored dots, this is the nucleus. They have nucleus, they have cytoplasm, they have a central large vacuole which store food in. In some plants they have chloroplast, so they are photosynthetic in nature, and intercellular spaces and thin cell wall. So this is the structure of parenchyma cells. I hope you understood. It is after these permanent tissues, that is parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Today we will discuss about the outermost layer of your of plant parts, that is epidermis and cork. Okay, there are two outermost layer of plant parts that is given in your book. They are discussing in your book, that is epidermis and cork. Now let's check a little background of these two tissues. What is actually epidermis and how actually till now we discussed about the permanent tissues like collenchyma, parenchyma, sclerenchyma on the basis of cell types, whether they are living or dead, whether they are dividing or non-dividing. But these same tissues, on the basis of their structure, on the basis of their location, and on the basis of their location in plants and function, we can categorize these permanent tissue into three broad categories. Okay, three broad categories. Out of these three broad categories, the first is the outermost layer tissues, that is the epidermis, epidermal tissue system. Okay, there are many other parts which come under this epidermal tissue system that we will discuss, or the parts which are actually originating from this epidermal layer. Okay, then the second we categorize these tissues into ground tissue system. Okay, and in this ground tissue system all three of them come: parenchyma, it includes collenchyma, it includes sclerenchyma. So together they form the ground tissue system of the plants on the basis of their location, structure and function. That was the second category. And the third category is the vascular bundle. I know you know about the vascular bundle, that is a conducting tissue system of the plant. Okay, conducting tissue system of the plant which include xylem and phloem. So in your book they are discussing this outermost layer, that is the epidermal tissue system, which includes the epidermis. When we talk about, simply see, epidermis is the outermost layer of the plants. Okay, it is the protective layer of the plants. But under when we talk about the outermost layer of the plants or protective layer of the plants, in plants mostly two layers are seen. First is this epidermal, and in some woody plants, in some bigger trees, you will see cork. One protective layer that is covering the stem is cork. It is present in stem mostly. Okay, epidermis is covering all the parts, all the part of plant from outside. It is a kind of protective layer. And this cork, it is present mostly in the woody plants and in stems mostly. Okay, and it is a dead cell. Secondly, the epidermal cells, which we it is single layer cells. Okay, the appendages which we learn under this category of epidermal cells, epidermal tissue system. First thing you have to keep in your mind is the epidermal layer of plant. It is the protective tissue layer. Secondly, they are mostly parenchymatous tissues. Okay, these corks were secondary meristematic tissues. Okay, I told you that when lateral meristem they divide, they increases the girth of the plant. Elongated also intercalary meristem, they also increases the girth of the plant. So these secondary growth of the plant, meristematic tissue, these when they became, they became cork, they grow and they loses their dividing capacity, and around the stem they became a protective layer. They form a protective layer that is called cork or bark also. Okay, so in plants, epidermal cells on the stems get modified to cork, and cork is a dead tissue, and there is a deposition of a particular kind of substance in these tissues, that is suberin. Okay, suberin is a kind of water resistance substance which get deposit in this meristematic tissue of secondary meristematic tissue, became cork. So it protect the woody plants or stem of woody plants from outside temperature, from outside parasitic or fungi attack, and it is protective in function, you can wholly solely you can say. Okay, when we talk about this epidermal cells, which is covering all parts of plant, which is a protective layer of the plants. So what is epidermis, and how it is different, let's see, and what are the parts which are originating from this epidermis. So first, starting with this epidermis, first thing you have to know that tissue on basis of location, this epidermal tissue system comes under. Secondly, epidermis tissue system is the outermost covering of the whole plant body, and they comprises of epidermal cells. They comprises of epidermal appendages like root hairs, which is present only in roots. They are not present in any aerial part of the plants, and stomata. Stomata is also originating from epidermis. Okay, so these all things we will discuss under this epidermis. So first thing and the foremost thing is, it is the outermost layer of plant body, and it is made up of a single layer of cell. Epidermis is a single layer of cell which is covering the plant part from outside. What happens in animals? In our case, skin is covering all our internal organs from outside. Similarly, in case of plants, epidermis is covering all plant parts from outside with a single layer of cells. This is called epidermis. Okay, this is the epidermis. This single layer of cell that I have darkened here is epidermis. And the cells of this epidermal, they are elongated, and there is no intercellular spaces between any epidermal cell. See, you can see there is no intercellular spaces. First thing, outermost cell, this is the LS of a stem. If you will see the outermost layer of layer, that will be epidermis. It is single layer. There will be no intercellular spaces between the cell. Because see, it is protective in function, so there no breach, no kind of intercellular spaces should be there. Otherwise, it will not be a protective layer, right? So there will be no intercellular spaces, and it is a continuous layer, and it is single layer. There will be no 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. It is a single layer. Okay. Secondly, it is protective in function and protect all the part plants. outside of epidermis on aerial parts of the plant. Aerial parts of the plant means the plant parts which are above the soil. The plant part, for example, leaves, shoots, stem, flower, fruit, these all are the aerial parts of the plant. The parts of plant which are above the ground are the aerial parts of the plant. So, outside of epidermis, that is on the aerial part of plant, it creates a waxy water resistant layer. This is called cuticle, okay. And this cuticle is a waxy. This layer of epidermal tissue, they excrete a particular type of waxy substance that is called cutin, okay. And this cutin deposit on the outer side of this epidermal tissue, epidermal layer, epidermis, and it forms a kind of water resistant layer outside the epidermis. Why? Because see, aerial part of the plants, they are continuously in touch with the environment. So, continuously they are losing water. So, to resist that loss of water, to make the plant prevent from excessive loss of water, there is a layer of waxy coating outside this epidermal cells, and this is called cuticle, okay. This cuticle is very thick in case of desert plants. And you know why it is very thick in case of desert plants? Because desert plants are more affected by the temperature or heat. So, there are more possibility of desiccation. Desiccation means loss of water in case of plants, desert plants. So, that is why in case of desert plants, this waxy epidermal layer, the outer side of this epidermal layer and this cuticle which is secreted by this epidermal layer, they will be more thick as compared to aquatic plants. There will be no cuticle as in case of not as thick. The cuticle as thick as in case of terrestrial, it will not as thick in case of terrestrial plants as it is in case of desert plants, okay. So, it will be more thick in case of desert plants. So, cuticle prevent the loss of water because these cutin is a water resistance substance, okay. And epidermal cells mostly they are parenchymatous cells, understood. So, this was your epidermis. First it is outermost layer, second it is single layer, third it is no cellular intercellular spaces are present, third. But see, one more thing is there. If there is no intercellular spaces, then how the plant will able to do transpiration and how it will carry out the gaseous exchange, the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. For this purpose, there are little pores that are present on epidermis, and these pores are called stomata. Okay, now we will discuss about stomata in the next video. If you will take some leaf and if you will peel it out, and if you will see that peel under microscope, you will observe that there are tiny pores which are present on those plant, on those on this layer of epidermis. These kind of pores are present. For example, this is the layer of epidermis. These kind of pores will present. They are very minute, okay. You cannot observe those pores with the help of your eye, but under microscope you can see them very clearly. So, if this is this green part, this is, for example, this is the epidermal cells of the plant, and if you will see if you are seeing that peel of plant under microscope, you will see these minute pores here and these minute pore. This is called stomata, okay. So, in this video we will talk about stomata. So, what is stomata? Stomata basically they are present on the, see the number of stomata, it varies on the upper side of the leaf and on the lower side of the leaf. There will be number, it will be different, but it does not matter. Your book, you have to stick with the what is stomata. So, stomata is basically, it is structures which are present on epidermis of leaf. Stomata helps in transpiration and gaseous exchange. They are the structures which are present, they are the pores which are present on the epidermis of leaf. They help the plant in transpiration and gaseous exchange. Now, what is transpiration? Transpiration means loss of or escape of water from the aerial parts of the plant in form of water vapors, okay. This is transpiration. From roots the water is absorbing water, and from xylem it is transported to all parts of the plant. But this transpiration pull, it is maintained throughout the plant, throughout the stem of plant. From root it will reach to air, to leaves with the help of this process, transpiration. This transpiration pull is maintained in plant due to a little escape of water from the leaves, absorption of water from the root. So, this process it will you know, it form a kind of transpiration pull. Okay. So, transpiration is done with the help of these tiny pores on which are present on epidermis layer of plant, and it also help, this stomata also help in the gaseous exchange. Gaseous exchange means plant take carbon dioxide to utilize that carbon dioxide in photosynthesis, that it took the carbon dioxide from these pores, and also the oxygen which is being released after photosynthesis as a byproduct of photosynthesis, it is released out from this stomatal pores which are present on the outer side of the epidermis layer, okay, which are present in epidermis. So, this is stomata, this is the structure of stomata. So, these are the epidermal cells, this is the tiny pore. This pore of stomata, it is guarded by two kidney shaped cells, and these two kidney shaped cells is called guard cells. Okay, this is stomata pore, these two kidney shaped cells are guard cells, and some of the epidermal cell, they which are surrounding the these green white part you can see, these are some of the epidermal cells which are surrounding these stomatal pores, they form subsidiary cells. Okay, these subsidiary cells are some epidermal cells around the guard cells. Okay, these are called the epidermal cells which are surrounding these guard cells, surrounding these stomata, they are called subsidiary cells. Okay, these help these guard cells. What is the function of guard cells? This pore is open or closed. Okay, this is due to this is the function of guard cell. They will become swollen. If they will become swollen, see this is swollen this time. Okay, when this will become swollen, the pore will be open, and when this will shrink, this guard cell will shrink, the pore will be closed. So, in this way, opening and closing of stomata is regulated by these guard cells which are guarding these pores, and in this way plant, it regulate the exchange of gases, it regulate the transpiration. See, plant will regulate transpiration, it will not allow to more transpiration to occur. Why? Because if more transpiration will occur, there will be more loss of water. So, if it is very heated, the environment is very hot, then what will happen? Stomata will be closed. So, in this way stomata regulate the transpiration in plants, and it also regulate the exchange of gases. Okay. So, this is stomata, which is epidermal structure. Next epidermal structure that we will talk is root hairs. I told you that cuticle is present only in case of aerial parts of the plant to prevent those plants from water water loss, prevent the water loss from the aerial parts of the plant. Desiccation, it prevents the plant from desiccation. Okay, but in case of root there will be no cuticle, because there is no problem of desiccation in case of root. Root itself directly absorbing water from the soil. Okay, but there are some epidermal structures which are called root hair, which are present on the this epidermis, root hairs like this. When you will see the LS, or this is LS of stem, here also some some hairs like structure are present, but these are not called root hairs because it is LS of stem, these are called trichomes. If you will see some plants, you will feel, for example, if you will see bichupoti, okay, if you will see some plants, some other plant also, you will see some stem or some plants or leaves, they have a hair like structure on them. So, this hair like structure, if it is present on stem, it is called trichomes. It is not given in your book, just for your knowledge, but these hair like structures which are present on root, it is called root hair. Okay, cuticle is absent in root hair. Epidermal tissues, they give rise to root hairs in case of roots. Why? Because root have to absorb water, and these root hairs, they increase the area of absorption of the roots. Okay, and more water and minerals can be absorbed with the help of these epidermal structure, epidermal appendages. Appendages means structure which are rising from epidermis. Okay, so this was all about your epidermal tissue, this was about your stomata, this was about your this root hair. So you have to learn all these things, keep in mind all the points.